Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome back to Canard Boulevard. It's been a little while. Yeah, it's been, I guess, a few weeks since I posted anything, and there's a few good reasons, but mainly it's weather. Projects, weather, but mainly weather. I haven't been able to do a whole lot of work on the airplane because it's been brutally cold. And when I say brutally cold, I mean one of the coldest winters we've had in a long time. Really, really cold weather. That's really limited how much work I can do on the airplane because I just don't really feel like going out to the hangar when it's 10 degrees outside. And that's in Fahrenheit, so Celsius, I don't know what that is. But it's bloody cold. And when you can't feel your fingers, it's really no fun working on the airplane. But I have been able to do some stuff at home. I've had a project going on where I am doing some work on my engine cowls, both the upper and lower cowls. That has been a major undertaking. I work on that pretty much every single night. I'm doing work on it, and that's been the case for weeks now. And the main reason for that is because it's a lot of sanding, epoxy, sanding, microballoons, sanding this, sanding, and each of those steps means you gotta let it cure overnight. So it's slow going, but really close there, really close to being able to call that project finished. Other things I have going on, new alternator strut, that's got to go on, though the one that I got is the wrong size, and there doesn't seem to be one for my airplane specifically for the aftermarket non-certified alternator and the starter, so I do have this certified Lycoming strut, and I'm just going to modify it to fit. So, experimental aviation. I know lots and lots of people have complained mightily about the video in my airplane and that the glare shield reflects up in the windshield, and it has this great big light area that makes it hard to see out the windshield. And yes, it's really noticeable on camera. I never really noticed it much when I was actually flying in the airplane until recently when I was flying and I had the sun in front of me, and then I thought, actually, you know what? That really is bothersome. I do notice it in the airplanes. So by popular request, I took the glare shield off, brought it back, and I used a special flat black paint that has extremely low reflectivity, painted over that light gray, and we'll try that out and see how it goes. So that should help with the reflectivity and that's reflection in the windshield in the videos. Other things I have going on, well, you know all about the electronic ignition. I had those CHT problems that I was chasing up and down for, I don't even remember how long, months and months, that ended up being a failed manifold air pressure sensor on the electronic ignition. And that is a 20-year-old unit in there that they don't make anymore, and unfortunately they don't have parts for anymore. So I was unable to get a replacement manifold air pressure sensor. In the meantime, what I did was disconnect it and disable it, so that locks the electronic ignition at the 25-degree before top dead center, which is basically what a Magneto does. But it works, but it means I'm not getting any of the benefits of the electronic ignition. I don't get the increased power, I don't get the reduced fuel consumption. So I have in here an EIS-1, which is the current newest electronic ignition. It has the coil system here. This is where it connects to the plugs, and that goes to the brain. Unlike the existing electro-air unit that I have, this actually has two separate pieces. The one I have right now, it's all one monolithic piece that mounts on the inside of the firewall next to the engine. This one, the coil goes in the engine compartment, and then there's a separate piece, which is the brain here, and this actually mounts inside the airplane. And then you also have to run tubing in for the manifold air pressure sensor, which I believe is right here. No, that's the mounting plate. Actually, I think it's in here. Is it on there? Yeah, it's on here. So it's built into this unit here. So I have to run a manifold air pressure sensor tube along with this harness to the inside of the airplane and some other wiring. So that's going to be a bit of a project to do. This is probably a good day or two of work. both removing the old one and installing this one. Fortunately, this one still uses the Magneto timing housing sensor, the MTH sensor that goes in place of my right magneto that senses the position of the engine. That is the one that I had the Hall effect sensor fail that I replaced last year. So fortunately, I can still use that with this unit. I don't have to replace that, which saved me $1,000. So that's nice. Speaking of $1,000, I got my Magneto back from its 500-hour IRAN. It looks brand new. This came back from Aircraft Magneto Service. This is really where you want to send your things to. This thing looks brand new. It literally looks brand new. I think they put new vent ports in it. I did have to get a new impulse coupler on it. The one that was on the Magneto that I sent in, it was out of spec, it was worn, so they had to replace it. They replaced the points and brushes and all the wear items inside the Magneto. So Magneto's good as new, just ready to put back on the airplane, so that's good. I do have to install my tachometer sensor in it yet. That goes into the vent port in the bottom, so that's on the to-do list. And the last thing on the to-do list is this from Monkworkz. This is a backup alternator for my airplane, and it is a backup alternator that mounts on the vacuum pad on the back of a Lycoming engine. It's a tiny little three-phase stator, so generator. And let me get all the bits and pieces out. And it's about the size of your fist. It's really quite small. So that's it right there. So this mounts onto the vacuum pad, the accessory pad where the vacuum pump normally goes on the back of the Lycoming engine. The housing is actually it's the magnets here, and the stator is stationary on the inside. You can see inside there. And then it has a shear coupling in the front here so that if something were to bind back here, it doesn't take out your engine. And then this spins, and as it does, it generates three-phase AC out of these wires here. And this tiny little thing generates 30 amps of power. That's a huge amount of power for this tiny little thing. And this is enough power to run my entire airplane and then some. My airplane, with all the avionics on, electronic ignition, everything running, transponder, everything is drawing about 17 amps. So not only will this run my entire airplane, it will also charge my battery when doing so. So that's a great little device from Monkworkz. And then it hooks up to this very, very smart little electronic box here. And that is the brains behind it. The three-phase AC goes in this side. It puts DC out this side, has a bunch of controls on it. You can switch it on and off from the cockpit. It has thermal overloads. It's internally fused. It has current limiting. So, I mean, literally, you can have this thing running and just apply a dead short to the output here, and it'll just shut itself off. It doesn't blow a fuse. It's very intelligent. It also has the ability to monitor your bus voltage. So if you have your alternator set at, say, 14.6 volts, this thing will see that and will disable itself. But if your alternator goes offline, if your alternator fails, if it drops down below, I think it's 14.1 or 13 or 14 volts, somewhere around there. I'll have to look up in the manual. But as soon as it sees that, it switches on and brings up the power so that it works as a hot standby. So you don't have to switch anything on. If it sees the voltage drop, it turns itself on. You have a light on in the cockpit, let you know that, hey, your alternator is this backup alternator is taken over. So this is this is probably another day's install because there is some wiring to go to it. But I thought, because I have a glass cockpit, even with the backup EFIS battery, that doesn't back up my transmitters or my radios and so on. Also, because I have the electronic ignition, I thought, I have a signal alternator. I did have that alternator failure, I guess it was last year before, coming back from Maine, where I watched my voltage slowly going down. I mean, it was a perfect VFR day, so it wasn't really an emergency. And the alternator, by the time we got back, the alternator was not functioning. But that situation is exactly what this is for. that would, if, God forbid I was in IMC and I had an alternator failure like that, or a belt broke or whatever, that would leave me stranded in IMC with a battery that's running out, and the battery is running the electronic ignition. So how long is it going to run? I don't know. When it runs out, then I have my EFIS backup battery. That will run for at least a couple hours. So, I mean, yeah, I do have redundant backup systems, but this is an ultimate backup system because it keeps everything in the airplane running normally, and then I can get down and deal with whatever caused the primary alternator failure. I will say that this Monkworkz alternator, it does require cooling. The idea is that in a conventional airplane, you have this blast tube, you plumb it into your baffling so that you have ram air in here, and one part of the hose goes into this piece here and blows air through, and the other piece fits into the alternator housing here and blows air through the alternator, and it comes out the back. Obviously, in my airplane, that doesn't function that way because it is an updraft cooling, so the area that this is in and this is in the high pressure area. So I'm going to plumb the tube to the baffling and in hopes that the air is going to flow backwards and cool these things sufficiently. So the air will be flowing in the back of the alternator, the stator here, and then out through this to the baffling. Same goes with this piece here with the controller. The air will be coming in from the sides and out through the middle. That's the hope, that's the expectation. If need be, there are machined and tapped screw holes in the back here of the stator that rotates. So I could 3D print some vanes or something to put on here and screw it in place so that as this thing rotates, it actually grabs air and shoves it into the back of this thing. So it actively is flowing air through as the engine turns. I suspect that's probably not going to be needed, but if need be, that is an option. Okay, that's it. That's where I'm at for plans with the airplane right now. I'm really just trying to hopefully, with the weather is going to get a little bit warmer. I was really hoping this weekend I was going to get out and do some work because we've had like 45, 50 degrees. It was 50 degrees today. So I thought, great, all weekend I'm going to be out at the airport working, but nope. 50 degrees today. I had to work all day. Tomorrow, temperature 17. Come on, really? So we're going to have another Arctic blast this weekend, which means I'm probably not going to be hanging out of the hangar. I'll at least get the cowls done. So I'm expecting that by the end of the weekend, the cowls will be finished. That project will be done. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I just wanted to do a quick update because I've had people ask, like, hey, what happened to your channel? You're not posting anything. Well, you know, if you want to see me posting videos of me sanding a cowl, it's pretty boring. Actually, I have made videos of all the work on the cowls, but I'm going to just time-lapse it because you don't want to sit for 15 minutes watching me sanding fiberglass. It's really boring. So I'll put it together into a comprehensive thing, and you'll see exactly what I've done and why I've done it and how I've done it, and hopefully you'll find that interesting. I find it interesting. If you have any questions or comments, suggestions, leave them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. See you soon.